The last resort. The Galactic Council's emergency chamber hadn't seen this level of panic in over 3 centuries. 17 different species of alien representatives huddled around the massive quantum crystal display, watching as another cargo freighter dissolved into space dust. The void stalker responsible for its destruction moved with terrible grace, its kilometer-long crystalline form pulsing with dark energy as it disappeared back into the depths of space. "That's the 7th ship this cycle," Ambassador Trix announced, their bioluminescent tentacles flashing distress patterns. "The Orion-Carina trade route is effectively closed. We're looking at economic collapse across 3 spiral arms if we can't resolve this crisis." High Commander Zithtal, a towering insectoid whose chitinous armor bore the scars of countless battles, stepped forward. "My fleet has engaged these creatures 14 times. We've lost 43 warships and haven't managed to destroy a single void stalker. Their hulls simply absorb our most powerful weapons." The chamber erupted in overlapping voices, each species trying to propose increasingly desperate solutions. In the midst of the chaos, a single figure remained silent, studying the holographic replay with intense focus. Dr. Sarah Chen hadn't wanted to attend this meeting. She'd been perfectly happy studying extreme environment predators on Europa when the Council's summons arrived, but her reputation had preceded her. "Dr. Chen," Council Elder Verx's synthesized voice cut through the noise. "You've been unusually quiet. Earth's Xenobiological Research Division insisted we include you in these proceedings. Perhaps you'd care to share your insights." Sarah stood, her dark eyes reflecting the holographic imagery of the Void Stalker's attack. At 38, she'd spent more time studying dangerous alien species than most humans spent in college. Her weathered field jacket, covered in patches from various xenological expeditions, stood in stark contrast to the ornate diplomatic attire surrounding her. "You're all approaching this wrong," she said, her voice calm but carrying the weight of certainty. "These aren't mindless killers. Look at the attack pattern." She gestured, and the hologram replayed. "See how it specifically targeted the engine core. How it avoided the crew sections until the last possible moment. These are signs of intelligence, and more importantly, restraint. Restraint." High Commander Zithtul's mandibles clicked in derision. "These monsters have destroyed billions in resources and killed thousands." "Yes," Sarah acknowledged, "but only after we started sending warships into their territory. Before that, they were merely disabling ships and forcing them to change course." She pulled up her own datapad, projecting a series of charts. "I've analyzed every documented Void Stalker encounter. They're protecting something." The chamber fell silent as her words sank in. Elder Verx's crystalline form shifted colors thoughtfully. "What would you suggest, Dr. Chen?" "Let me study them, not from a distance, not through probes. I need to get close enough to observe their natural behavior. On Earth, we have a long history of studying dangerous predators in their natural habitat. It's how we learn to coexist with everything from tigers to great white sharks." The explosion of protests was immediate and predictable. Sarah waited it out patiently, her expression unchanged. She'd faced similar reactions when she proposed living among the methane wolves of Titan. "This is absurd," Zithtal roared. "You're suggesting we allow a single human to approach creatures that can destroy battleships." "I'm suggesting," Sarah replied, "that you've tried everything else. Your weapons don't work. Your barriers don't hold. You've lost more ships and lives trying to fight them than in any other conflict this century. What do you have to lose by trying something new?" Elder Verx raised an appendage for silence. "Dr. Chen, your species' ability to survive on a death world like Earth is well documented. But these creatures exist in the void of space itself. How do you propose to even approach them?" Sarah smiled for the first time since the meeting began. "I've already designed a research vessel, small, minimal energy signature based on the profile of space debris. The Void Stalkers ignore debris. And I've developed a prototype for a new type of shield, not to keep them out, but to let them perceive me as clearly as possible. I want them to know I'm there, and that I'm not a threat. You sound as if you've been preparing for this, Ambassador Trix observed. I have been. Ever since the first reports of the Void Stalkers emerged, I've been studying them from afar. Everything about their behavior suggests a sophisticated species protecting its territory. We just need to learn how to communicate with them. The council members exchanged glances, a complex series of gestures, color changes, and pheromone signals passing between them. Finally, Elder Verk spoke again. The council will need to deliberate on this proposal, but I must ask, why are you willing to risk your life for this? Sarah's expression grew serious. Because every species we've ever studied, no matter how dangerous, has had a reason for its behavior. Understanding those reasons has always been the key to coexistence. Humanity learned that lesson the hard way on Earth. Maybe we can help the galaxy avoid making the same mistakes. As the council members filed out to begin their deliberations, Sarah returned to studying the holographic footage. In the crystalline form of the Void Stalker, she saw something familiar: the precise movements, the calculated responses. Whatever these creatures were, they weren't mindless destroyers. They were trying to tell the galaxy something. And Sarah Chen had made a career out of listening to the things other people called monsters. Patterns in chaos. Sarah's research vessel, the Whisper, drifted silently through the debris field that marked the edge of Void Stalker territory. The ship lived up to its name, barely larger than an old Earth submarine, with systems designed to run at minimal power. Its hull, covered in sophisticated sensor arrays, looked more like a piece of space debris than a research vessel. Recording log entry 47. Sarah spoke softly as she studied the holographic displays surrounding her pilot's chair. 2 weeks into observation, Void Stalker movement patterns are becoming clearer. They're not random patrols. They're following specific routes, like territorial boundaries. She manipulated the display, showing overlapping paths of multiple Void Stalker sightings. The patterns reminded her of something, tickling at the edges of her memory. Then it hit her. Computer, overlay current data with shark migration patterns from Earth's Pacific Ocean, scaled appropriately. The patterns aligned almost perfectly. Sarah leaned forward, excitement building. Just like great whites. They're not just patrolling. They're following food sources, currents of energy in space itself. But they're also maintaining distinct territories, which means a proximity alert cut through her theorizing. The Void Stalker was approaching, its crystalline form catching the light of distant stars. Sarah's heart raced, but she remained calm. She'd been waiting for this moment. Beginning phase 1 of contact protocol, she announced to her logs. Initiating whale song transmission, modified for space conditions. The Whisper began broadcasting low-frequency vibrations through space, modeled after the songs of Earth's humpback whales, but adapted for the vacuum of space using electromagnetic waves. It was a theory she'd developed after noticing how Void Stalkers seemed to react to certain energy frequencies. The massive creature paused in its approach. Its crystalline surface rippled with patterns of light, colors shifting in what Sarah recognized as a response pattern. She'd seen similar behavior in cephalopods on Earth. Remarkable, she breathed. They're not just reacting to the transmission, they're analyzing it. Computer, begin recording all light pattern variations and cross-reference with known communication patterns of Earth's color-changing species. A harsh buzz from her communication system interrupted her observations. Dr. Chen. High Commander Zithtul's voice crackled through. Our long-range sensors show you're in direct contact with a Void Stalker. Withdraw immediately. Negative, Commander. Sarah replied calmly, never taking her eyes off the creature. It's showing signs of intelligent response. If you send ships in now, you'll disrupt first contact protocols. This is madness. These creatures have destroyed. Sarah muted the transmission. The Void Stalker had moved closer, its massive form now clearly visible through the Whisper's observation dome. This close, she could see details previous scans had missed. The crystalline structure wasn't uniform. It had patterns, deliberate formations that reminded her of the bioluminescent displays of deep-sea creatures. Computer, modify transmission. Add patterns matching the creature's surface displays. The whisper adjusted its broadcast, creating a simple mirror of the Void Stalker's light patterns. The response was immediate. The creature's surface erupted in a cascade of colors, and it moved even closer. Sarah's sensors were recording everything, but her trained eye caught something the machines might miss. The patterns, they're not random. There's a sequence, like grammar. Computer, begin analyzing pattern repetitions for linguistic structures. A sudden shift in the creature's behavior caught her attention. It had turned, presenting its flank to her ship, a position that exposed its more vulnerable areas. Sarah had seen this behavior before, in predatory creatures establishing trust. It's not just communicating, she realized. It's testing us. Computer, maintain current position and transmission. No course corrections. Hours passed as Sarah remained still, continuing the silent exchange of light and energy with the massive being. Her sensors recorded everything, but her mind was racing ahead to implications that would shake the galaxy. Finally, the Void Stalker began to withdraw, but not before releasing a burst of complex light patterns. Sarah's computer immediately began analysis. Preliminary pattern analysis complete, the computer announced. High probability of linguistic structure detected. Pattern suggests regularized syntax, consistent with intelligent communication. Sarah smiled, reaching for her communication system. Council Elder Verks, are you receiving my data transmission? We are, Dr. Chen. The Elder's synthesized voice wavered with what might have been awe. Are you suggesting these creatures are sentient? Sarah finished. Oh, they're far more than that. Those light patterns weren't just communication. They were mathematics. Pure, complex, beautiful mathematics. The Void Stalkers aren't just intelligent predators. They're a sophisticated species trying to talk to us. She began compiling her data, already planning her next observation session. But that's not all. Their behavior, these territorial patterns, they're protecting something. Something they consider valuable enough to risk conflict with the entire Galactic Council. What could be so important? Verks asked. Sarah's eyes sparkled with the thrill of discovery. That's what we're going to find out. But first, we need to stop treating them like monsters and start treating them like what they are. A species with their own culture, their own understanding of space, and their own story to tell. As she spoke, her sensors detected more Void Stalkers approaching in the distance, their patterns already matching the ones she'd recorded. They weren't coming to attack. They were coming to observe. Humanity's first real conversation with the Void Stalkers was about to begin. The Bridge Builder. The Galactic Council's emergency chamber had transformed into something resembling a terrestrial aquarium control room. Holographic displays showed cascading light patterns, while electromagnetic wave analyses scrolled across multiple screens. At the center of it all, Sarah Chen hadn't slept in 36 hours. Look at this sequence here. She pointed to a particularly complex pattern of crystalline flashes. It repeats across all Void Stalker communications, but with subtle variations depending on their relative positions to each other. It's not just language. It's a spatial reference system. They navigate using mathematics. Ambassador Trix's tentacles writhe with nervous energy. Fascinating, Dr. Chen, but how does this help our immediate crisis? The Orion-Carina trade route remains closed, and our economies are suffering. Sarah straightened, rubbing her tired eyes. Because now we understand why they're defending that particular region of space. Those trade routes, they're running right through their nurseries. The chamber erupted in confused chatter. Elder Verks raised an appendage for silence. Nurseries. Sarah pulled up a new set of readings. The Void Stalkers are protecting their young. Those regions of space we've been blindly pushing our ships through. Their spawning grounds. The crystalline structures we've detected aren't just debris. They're eggs. High Commander Zithtul's mandibles clicked rapidly. Impossible. Our surveys showed no signs of. Because you were looking for organic life signs, Sarah interrupted. The void stalkers aren't carbon-based. Their young develop in crystalline matrices that absorb energy from specific spatial phenomena. Our ship's engine signatures were disrupting their development cycle. Every time we sent a fleet through, we were threatening their next generation. The revelation hit the chamber like a physical force. Species across the galaxy held the protection of young as a universal constant. Even the most militant cultures respected breeding grounds. If what you're saying is true, Elder Verx's crystalline form shifted through thoughtful colors. Why didn't they simply communicate this to us? Sarah managed a tired smile. They tried. Those initial attacks. They specifically targeted engine cores, trying to dry ships away from the nurseries without destroying them completely. It was only after we responded with military force that they escalated their defensive measures. She brought up a new display, showing a modified ship design. I've developed a way to reconfigure our engine signatures to minimize disruption to their spawning grounds. More importantly, I've created a navigation system based on their mathematical language. We can plot safe routes through their territory, routes they're willing to share. You've spoken with them about this, Ambassador Trix asked incredulously. Better. Sarah's fingers danced across her controls, and a new hologram appeared. It showed the Whisper surrounded by 3 void stalkers, their crystalline forms pulsing with complex patterns of light. I've been invited to observe their spawning process. They want us to understand. The chamber fell silent again, but this time with awe rather than fear. The footage showed the massive creatures delicately manipulating spatial energies, creating protected pockets where their crystalline eggs could safely develop. There's more, Sarah continued. Their mathematical language. It contains elements we've never seen before. Their understanding of spatial mechanics surpasses our most advanced theories. They're not just intelligent. They're one of the most sophisticated species we've ever encountered. We've been so focused on their defensive capabilities that we missed their true value as potential allies. High Commander Zithtal stepped forward, his warrior's stance softening slightly. You believe they would be willing to share this knowledge. They already are. Sarah brought up another display, showing complex mathematical formulae. These were freely given during our last exchange. Their culture is built around the preservation and sharing of knowledge. They see us as young, reckless, but capable of learning. They're willing to teach us, but first, we have to prove we can respect their boundaries and protect their young. The implications were staggering. Access to Void Stalker spatial mathematics could revolutionize interstellar travel. Their understanding of energy manipulation could solve power generation problems across the galaxy. But first, they had to prove themselves worthy of such knowledge. Elder Verx was about to speak when alarms blared across the chamber. Sarah's displays filled with emergency signals. No, she breathed, reading the data. A corporate mining fleet just entered the nursery zone. They're trying to harvest the crystalline structures. They think they're just valuable minerals. Can you contact the Void Stalkers? Ambassador Trix asked urgently. Explain that this isn't sanctioned. Sarah was already running for the door. There's no time for explanations. Those miners are about to trigger a defensive response that could start a war. I need to get out there now. You can't possibly. High Commander Zithtal began. I'm the only one they trust. Sarah cut him off. The only one who can prove that not all species in this galaxy see their children as mining opportunities. Either help me stop this, or watch everything we've worked for turn into atomic dust. As she raced toward her ship, Sarah's mind was already racing through communication patterns. She had built a bridge between species, and she wasn't about to watch it burn. The real test of humanity's role in the galaxy was about to begin. Dance with Dragons. The Whisper dropped out of FTL on the edge of the nursery zone, and Sarah's heart nearly stopped. Ahead, 5 massive mining vessels were deploying harvest drones toward the crystalline structures. Their energy beams had already begun cutting into what they thought were valuable mineral deposits, but Sarah knew better. Each blast was destroying unborn void stalkers. "This is Dr. Sarah Chen to Mining Fleet." She broadcast on all frequencies. "You are attacking a protected nursery zone. Cease operations immediately." "This is Captain Reynolds of the Independent Mining Corporation," a gruff voice replied. "We have valid claims to these resources. Clear the area." "Scientist." Sarah's sensors screamed warnings. Multiple void stalkers were approaching, their crystalline forms blazing with patterns she'd never seen before, but she could recognize rage in any species. "Captain, listen to me." Sarah tried again, maneuvering the whisper between the mining fleet and the approaching void stalkers. "Those aren't mineral deposits. They're eggs, living creatures. You're killing their children." A pause. "That's ridiculous. Our scans show no life signs." The space around them erupted in blinding light as the first void stalker arrived. Its kilometer-long form pulsed with colors that Sarah's translation matrix interpreted as grief and fury. Others were arriving, their patterns synchronizing in what she recognized as a battle formation. "Everyone, power down your engines." Sarah broadcast. "They interpret our standard engine signatures as weapons. Power down and hold position." The mining fleet's response was exactly what she'd feared. They raised shields and powered up weapons. "We don't take orders from." The first Void Stalker attack cut through a mining vessel's shields like they didn't exist. The ship's hull began to crystallize, its crew barely having time to reach escape pods. Sarah watched in horror as the situation spiraled toward disaster. Then she had an idea. A terrible, wonderful, absolutely insane idea. "Computer, divert all power to the electromagnetic broadcasters," she ordered, fingers flying across controls. "Configure them to match the crystalline resonance frequency of Void Stalker eggs." "Warning," the computer responded. "Such configuration will destabilize ship's structural integrity." "Do it anyway. And prepare to broadcast all recorded nursery observation data on visual frequencies." As the Void Stalkers prepared another attack run, the whisper began to vibrate. Sarah's ship was now emitting the same energy signature as their eggs, effectively making itself appear as the most vulnerable target possible. "Dr. Chen." High Commander Zithtol's voice crackled through her comm. "Our fleet is 8 minutes from your position. No military intervention." Sarah shouted back, watching as the Void Stalkers noticed her ship's new signature. "I need those 8 minutes. Keep everyone else away." The closest Void Stalker turned toward the whisper, its massive form looming over Sarah's tiny vessel. This close, she could see the intricate patterns within its crystalline structure, like frozen lightning in space. It raised its energy-gathering appendages. One blast would destroy her completely. Sarah activated her broadcast. The space around her ship filled with images of her previous observations. Void Stalkers tending their eggs, the complex mathematics of their communication, the delicate energy manipulation of their spawning process. Most importantly, she showed her own interactions with them. The careful building of trust, the shared knowledge, the respect she'd shown their young. "I understand." She broadcast in their mathematical language, using patterns she'd learned over weeks of observation. "I protect. Stop violence. Show better way." The Void Stalker hesitated. Its attack posture shifted, energy appendages lowering slightly. Others gathered around, their surfaces flickering with rapid communications Sarah's computer struggled to translate. "Captain Reynolds," Sarah broadcast to the mining fleet, keeping her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I'm sending you visual data. Look at what you're actually mining. Really look." The mining fleet's sensors would now be showing them the truth. The complex energy patterns within the crystals, the delicate developmental processes, the clear signs of life that their standard scans had missed. Sarah held her breath, praying that human curiosity would win out over human greed. Long seconds passed. Finally, Reynolds' voice returned, subdued. "Shutting down mining operations. All ships, power down and withdraw." The Void Stalkers watched as the mining ship slowly backed away from the nursery zone. Sarah maintained her position, her ship still resonating with egg frequencies, a bridge between two species on the brink of war. The largest Void Stalker approached her again, but this time its patterns were different. Sarah's computer translated, "Protect young, understand human bridge builder." "Yes," Sarah responded in their mathematical language. "Protect together. Share knowledge. Find harmony." The Void Stalker's response illuminated space with complex equations, spatial coordinates describing safe travel routes through their territory. More than that, it was sharing the underlying principles of their spatial mathematics, knowledge that could revolutionize interstellar travel. Sarah smiled as her computer recorded everything. She had gambled her life on a theory about universal parental instincts, about the possibility of understanding between radically different species. A very human gamble, and it had paid off. As the mining fleet retreated and the Void Stalkers returned to their protective positions around the nursery, Sarah began composing her report to the Council. Humanity had just proven its worth to the galaxy not through force of arms, but through something far more powerful: the ability to bridge the gap between worlds, to find understanding where others saw only monsters. The Whisper's hull groaned from the stress of maintaining egg resonance. Sarah didn't mind. Some things were worth breaking for. New horizons. 3 months after the mining fleet incident, the Galactic Council chamber was unrecognizable. Where there had once been only alien diplomats, now massive holographic forms of Void Stalkers floated among them, their crystalline surfaces dancing with mathematical communications. At the center of it all, Sarah Chen stood before a new addition to the chamber, a crystalline structure that served as a direct communication node with the Void Stalker Collective. The implementation of the new trade route system has exceeded all expectations, she reported, gesturing to a holographic map of the galaxy. Bright lines showed the updated shipping lanes, carefully plotted to avoid nursery zones while actually improving travel efficiency. By incorporating Void Stalker spatial mathematics, we've reduced transit times by 30% while completely eliminating conflicts. Elder Verx's crystalline form shifted through pleased colors. And the knowledge exchange. Sarah smiled, touching the communication node. It pulsed with patterns that the entire chamber could now understand, thanks to the universal translation matrices she'd developed. Beyond our wildest expectations, the Void Stalkers don't just manipulate space, they understand it on a fundamental level we're only beginning to grasp. Their mathematical models are already revolutionizing our understanding of quantum mechanics. A massive Void Stalker form, one Sarah recognized as First Singer, her original contact, shimmered with complex patterns. The chamber's translators converted it to speech. Human Sarah Bridge Builder speaks truth. Your young species sees patterns others miss. You understand protection, growth, nurture. Different methods, same goals. High Commander Zithtal, whose military title now seemed oddly obsolete in this new era of cooperation, stepped forward. The defense applications alone are remarkable. The new shield technologies based on their crystalline structures are secondary to the cultural exchange, Sarah interjected firmly. This was an argument she'd had many times over the past months. The Void Stalkers agreed to share their knowledge because we proved we could be trusted with it. They're teachers, not weapons developers. Ambassador Trix's tentacles waved in agreement. Indeed, the archaeological data they shared about ancient spacefaring civilizations alone has advanced our historical understanding by centuries. And their origins are exactly why we need to proceed carefully, Sarah completed. The revelation that Void Stalkers had evolved from simple space-dwelling organisms into one of the most sophisticated species in known space had shaken many assumptions about life itself. They're living proof that intelligence can develop in ways we never imagined. Their entire civilization is built on protecting and nurturing growth, whether it's their young or the development of other species. First Singer's patterns shifted. Humans understand. You evolved on protection world, learned survival through understanding. Now you help others understand. Bridge builders between different thought patterns. Sarah nodded, thinking of how far they'd come. The nursery zones were now the most heavily protected regions of space, not through military force, but through understanding and cooperation. Ships passed safely through Void Stalker territory, their crews marveling at the privilege of witnessing the crystalline beings in their natural habitat. "We're establishing the first Synological Communication Academy," she announced to the chamber, "a joint project between humans and Void Stalkers, open to all species. We'll teach the principles we've learned, that understanding beats force, that communication requires patience, and that every species, no matter how alien, has something valuable to teach us." The chamber hummed with approval. Even the most militant species had been forced to reconsider their approaches after seeing the results of peaceful cooperation. The mathematics alone had proven worth more than any military victory. First Singer moved closer to Sarah, its massive form dwarfing her, but its patterns expressing what she now recognized as affection. Human Sarah showed way. Small form, great understanding. Others thought us destroyers. You saw protectors. Now all see truth. That's what humans do best, Sarah replied, both in words and in the mathematical patterns she'd grown comfortable using. We've spent our entire history learning to understand the seemingly dangerous, to find common ground with the apparently alien. Every predator on Earth taught us something about coexistence. You just taught us to apply those lessons to the stars. The chamber's new communication node pulsed with patterns from Void Stalkers across the galaxy, expressing agreement and sharing new discoveries. Sarah watched the exchange of knowledge flowing freely between species that, just months ago, had been on the brink of war. "The next generation will grow up differently," she said, both to the chamber and to herself. Human children learning Void Stalker mathematics alongside their ABCs. Void Stalker young absorbing our art, our music, our ways of seeing the universe, every species contributing their unique perspective to a greater understanding. First Singer's patterns formed the mathematical symbol for continuation growth harmony. Bridge builder speaks truth. Galaxy songs change. New harmonies emerge. Protect, teach, grow together. As the chamber filled with the complex light patterns of interspecies dialogue, Sarah Chen thought about the long journey from that first terrifying encounter to this moment of unity. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy not through dominance, but through its unique ability to see past appearances, to find understanding where others saw only threat. The Void Stalkers had been right. Humans were bridge builders. And in a galaxy full of diverse and seemingly incompatible species, that was perhaps the most valuable skill of all.